What is happening? Welcome to the first ever episode of the Made by Miles podcast. I'm your host, Kieran Ingram, and I am absolutely buzzing to deliver this podcast, which has been built to give you insights, lessons, and value around about people and individuals and myself who have built a life that they are truly buzzing about through the miles they've put in both physically and mentally. And I thought there was no better way to start this off by showing my origin story and how I have fundamentally built my life from the ground up by putting in the miles daily. But first of all, do me a wee favour. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It really, really does go a long way. And if you're watching it on Spotify, give us a wee follow. And even better, for some brownie points, please share it to your story and tag us on Instagram and make a wee bit of noise for it, because inside this podcast, guys, right, obviously this one's going to be an origin story. I'm going to be breaking down how I've built my life up, but we're going to be getting on a lot of guests, a lot of people who have built insane lives that you can definitely take a lot of value from, but also other people can take value from. So I want to get this podcast out as much as humanly possible so that we can get as many eyeballs on it and get a lot of people fundamentally putting the miles in to create their own life, their own dream life that they are absolutely buzzing for. So guys, in this episode, as I covered, we're going to be going over my origin story, and you're going to understand why we've called this podcast Made by Miles. You're going to understand why I live my life how I live and how I'm in the position that I'm currently in. Because a lot of people will look at me potentially as just this coach who preaches about habits, routines, standards, runs a lot, fucking goes to the gym, all that kind of stuff, right? But there's a lot behind it. There's a lot behind the reason why I am who I am and I am where I am. And it wasn't always this plain sailing. And I know that social media can kind of paint a picture that it has always been this way. Like, I can hand on heart say, up until about 6 years ago, I wasn't the fitness guy. I wasn't the guy to sit in front of a camera and even speak. I wasn't the guy to record a podcast. I wasn't the guy to tell a story. But it all changed. So I think we'll get tore right into this. And if you can relate to any of it, pause it, digest it, and even drop us a wee message of the part of the story you really, really relate to. Now, first of all, to kind of get a grip of where it all started, you have to go all the way back to school. And I would probably say you can talk about primary school a wee bit. So when I was in primary school, I like to kind of think that I was an active kid. I was very outgoing. And when it came to me being in primary 6, primary 7, I used to think I was the dog's bollocks. And in primary school, you start to paint this picture about yourself. And that can quickly change as soon as you step into secondary school. And that's what fundamentally happened to me. I went from thinking I was the top dog to not being anywhere near that as soon as I stepped foot into secondary school. Now, that's done a lot of things to me. It knocked my confidence, right? But it put me in my place. And see, to be honest, this is my first insight of me getting my ego knocked right out of me. And the way I look at that is, that was a very pivotal moment for me, even though I didn't realise it at the time. Because there's a lot of people that go through life with ego. They'll tell wee lies. They'll fabricate the truth because of that ego. And I think that is what holds a lot of people back. Now, if you can get used to putting your ego to the side, it will allow you to grow in ways that you never thought was possible. So that happened to me when I went into secondary school. And quickly, I became a very, very shy wee boy. And that word wee boy really stands out, right? Because that is all I was. And I thought I was a big dog going into secondary school. And I just wasn't. Now, a lot of things started to happen in school that I didn't really understand. I was getting anxious. I had dyslexia. Didn't really understand that. And then I remember a moment when everything kind of changed because I thought a certain way, which I knew, in my opinion, it wasn't normal, but I didn't understand it. And then I remember sitting in a classroom. I can't remember what it was we were watching, or not what we were watching. I can't remember what classroom it was we were in. But we were basically watching a documentary about David Beckham, and it was around and about OCD, okay, obsessive compulsive disorder. And everything he was talking about, I was like, mate, that's me. It was everything around about how everything had to have a certain order or it had to be done a certain way. And for me, for as long as I can remember, I've had routines around about the number 3, where I'll move doors 3 times, I'll move TVs 3 times, shut the blinds 3 times. Everything across the board gets done in threes. And it really, really did affect me because at a young age of 14, I knew there was something wrong, knew there was something that wasn't quite right, but I didn't know what it was. And then watching that documentary just kind of, it opened my eyes to what it could potentially be. But at the same token, I never done anything about it. And as the years went on, I was walking about my teenage years with OCD, but without any diagnosis from it. I didn't know what it was, didn't know what was going on. I just thought this is the way that I was going to have to think. And that was a catalyst for a lot of things that went on, good and bad. But as the school years kind of started to get on, I noticed that I was quite a small fish in a big pond. And it did affect me to a certain degree. But at the same token, man, what it done to me was it made me go within myself, become very, very quiet. And then you've got all these thought processes, all these things happening inside your head where you don't quite understand it. And it was really, really starting to dig myself a hole that I didn't even know I was doing. And then you fast forward to fourth year. This is where everything kind of started to change, right? And this is where I started to drift away from football. I started to quit playing sports. Started even just to quit, just sitting playing the Xbox and that kind of stuff. And I started going out in the kind of usual pattern from the central belt of Scotland. Was kind of about with the wrong crowds, was getting involved with the wrong people. And fundamentally, I was trying to escape what was going on inside my head. And that led to smoking weed. That led to drinking a lot. And then it led to a lot of other substances, which later down the line became an addiction. But when I think about being that age, cutting about school, never thought anything of it. I was just smoking weed. I was just doing what I thought was normal at that time. And it really, really was the catalyst to a lot of bad mistakes and bad decisions. But when I look at it and the way I'll break it down, there's not many regrets, because at the same token, the decisions I made back then have shaped me into the person I am now. And even the guy that's talking to you right now, yeah, he still has anxiety, but he has the belief and the confidence to stand in front of this camera right now and deliver his own podcast. And that's all for the lessons that I've learned throughout life. So, as I said there, weed was becoming a very prominent part of my life. And then it kind of started to go up a gear. It became ecstasy and it became cocaine. And before I know it, it was getting taken next to every single day. And there was no respite between it. That was from the ages of about 17 to 20, where most days we were out or nut on something. And that is a very, very scary place to be. And like, if we retract here, I was, again, had my OCD, my dyslexia, was anxious. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And then you combine all these substances into there, you just get a lost wee boy. And again, that word wee boy, because I was still very much a wee guy at this point. Now, I left school. Well, I say I left school, got asked to leave at 16. Went on and jumped from job to job, which really just fueled the fire, because one, I was making money, but two, I hated the life I was living. And the money was fueling the habits, and the habits were fueling the hate. And again, we just found ourselves in this vicious cycle of no purpose, no drive, no nothing, just cocaine, work, and a bit of weed. That was my life. That was it. And it really did drag on. And then it took me to a very, very, very dark place, which I was in there for a very, very long while. Now, this is where it gets not weird, but I found hope and purpose in something that is very bad to say that I did. So, as you'll remember, when I went into secondary school, I lost my voice, became a quiet wee boy, and I kind of fell into the crowd and was just lost within the numbers. But then as I left school, I became a bit more confident again, had a wee bit of money about us, and then I really got involved with the wrong crowd, and I found purpose in the drug scene. And then again, because of that, we started doing things that even at this point I'm not proud of, and I look back at and go, what the fuck were you doing? And who did you actually think you were? But the key here was I found purpose. And I was in the headspace, I wanted to matter, even if it meant breaking myself to do it. So I come from a very, very, very good family where the things I'd done doesn't normally happen. So when I was doing these things, you can imagine what my family were like. They were like, what's happened to you? How have you became this person? And it was nobody's fault but mine. But it was because I craved purpose. And I became this guy. I became Kino, if you will, where people liked what I was doing, but they didn't like me. They liked what I was doing and what I could get from. And I seen purpose in that. Like, sit with that for a second. It is quite sad when you think about it. But a lot of people listening to this will probably relate to it to a certain degree, where they want purpose and they don't care how they get purpose. And as a lost wee boy, I found purpose in the drug scene because it made a name for myself. But all I didn't know was it was making a very, very bad name for myself. It took a lot of years to turn it around, to get out of. And I'm not saying that your past will hold you back, but your decisions will have an impact on your future. And that's something that you really, really need to sit and think about. And it's something that I've learned the hard way. And I know a lot of people will learn the hard way. Some people might not get out of it. But a lot of people do think that their decisions don't have any repercussions, but they really, really do. And I've learned this over the years. And these decisions broke a relationship up with my family, distanced myself from friends, and ultimately put me in a hole that nearly took my life. And that takes me on to my next bit. So when life got really bad was when I was about, as I say, 19 years of age was when it really started to hit the fan, and I started to go, right, we can't live like this. And that was when I first went out to get therapy, and I first accepted that, yeah, I was addicted to cocaine and got the help that I needed for it. And that went on for a good couple of years where some weeks were good, some weeks were bad, but it was a journey that I did not ever see the end of until one day where I went, right, this has to stop. There was a few things that happened that really could have changed the trajectory of my life. And it was very, 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 very scary, man. But as I say, we got through the back end of that. We sorted all that out. We'd done the work. And what I mean by the work is I didn't just start training. I didn't just start tracking my nutrition. Like, I really worked on who I was and figured out what it was I wanted to do from life and how I wanted my life to look. And cocaine was never involved in that. And that was when I decided to make the decision to really make it personal with me and that drug and go, let's fucking eradicate this from my life completely. And had I not had that conversation with myself, I know I wouldn't be sitting in this position right now talking to you guys in this podcast and breaking down my past as such. And I think that's where you need to be honest with yourself. You need to sit down and go, what is that vice? Like, it might not be cocaine. It might be nutrition. It might be porn. It might be weed. You don't know. Whatever your vice is, you need to be honest with yourself and go, is this how I want my life to be? If the answer's no, get the help and make it personal. Really, really take ownership around it and tackle it head on. But again, this took me years to get over this and to become that new person. And to be honest, I thought I was over it within a couple of years, and I wasn't. And see, to be real, that wee guy's still there, even to this day. It pops out every now and then, and it's kind of like that devil on the shoulder, and it just kind of says something, and then you just get reminded to go, right, we need to keep control of this. And that's the thing that a lot of people do. It's like, when it comes to developing as a person, the old you's still there. It always will be. That's the unfortunate truth. But you just get better at managing it. You get better at keeping on top of it and ultimately nurturing the new you. It's not a tick box exercise. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. But again, fast forward to 2020 when COVID hit. And I'll be real, I'm one of the COVID coaches where we've seen an opportunity. I was in a job I hated that I'd worked for 6 years. I had a massive bust up with one of my managers during COVID over overtime, which when I think about back now is hilarious because they were trying to get us to work overtime right at the start of the pandemic over Easter break. And I was like, no, mate, that's not happening. And we had a proper spat and I went, right, okay, sound. And my punishment was I got furloughed. Cool. Again, thanks for doing that. It gave me the time to think. And then when I was sitting on my Todd, I realised that I had a bit of passion for fitness, but also I had this need and want to help other people. And that was where the idea came across to actually become a coach. So I spent a lot of time during COVID studying and learning to become a fitness coach, which eventually grew arms and legs to obviously the extra mile, but we'll get tore into this. Now, when I decided to sit down and really think about what I wanted to do and I made the decision to sign up to become a coach, that was fundamentally the moment I seen a shift in my life, like completely. Because I went from, as I said, having purpose in the drug scene to getting out the drug scene. When you're in that phase, I had no purpose again, to then starting to find that purpose. And that was when the excitement really, really started to kick in for me. Again, it wasn't plain sailing. We still had that wee guy floating about. It was quite hard. But I chucked the kitchen sink at it and I was like, what is the worst that can happen here? And I think a lot of people will sit on their goals, sit on their targets, sit in the life they want to live and wonder to themselves, 10 years down the line going, why did nothing change? It's because you never took any chances. And something I've really learned over the years is, see if you are not getting that fear feeling regularly, you won't grow. It's as simple as that. And I don't mean the fear you get when you're sitting in somebody's kitchen at 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning. I mean the fear when you have to do a speech at a wedding, or you have to stand up in front of a room of people, or you have to deliver something, or you have to take yourself out your comfort zone, signing up for an event, training when you don't want to train, whatever it may be. When you get that feeling, when you are getting knots in your stomach, squeaky bum time as I would call it, that needs to be present quite a lot in your life, or you will get stagnant. And this is something that I'll say to all my guys all the time, that if you are stuck in a prolonged period of frustration, when was the last time you chased some discomfort? And I don't mean setting your alarm early, like real, this is going to fucking scare me. And I think as well, a prime example, and I'm not saying that you need to do this, we've made a lot of changes recently inside of the extra mile and for myself personally. And over the past 3 weeks, it has been terrifying. But we've seen the most growth in the past 3 weeks than what we've seen in the past 3 months, to be completely honest. And that is at the backbone of where not only success, but growth comes from, in my opinion. So again, fast forward, we've become a coach. We have qualified. We've got a first role as a small group PT coach in EK Performance. And I think that gives us a first shout out, obviously, for Ian Stevenson, who was a massive influence on my coaching career. But not only coaching career, but as a person, man, I learned a lot from that guy. And I think as well, like, over the years, I've been around some very, very exciting people, some very interesting people. And a lot of the people that I've been around shape who I am today. And again, have helped me grow as an individual. So again, if the people you're around aren't inspiring you, man, get around different people, because that might be what is holding you back for a long, long, long time. Now, again, we're sitting here as a fully qualified coach, starting to help people get towards their targets or goals and really starting to build a life that gave me proper excitement and proper purpose. But again, there was just still something missing. This head of mine was still 100% all over the place. Didn't know what was going on. Still counting to 3 every night. Still getting next to no sleep at all. And that was when I'd sorted out my job role, if you will. We had an exciting future, but I still wasn't completely right mentally. And this is when I made the decision, after obviously getting help with addiction, after obviously getting help with my depression, to go back into therapy, but tackle my OCD head on. Because what I have been able to do is turn my OCD into a superpower instead of a weakness. Like, it's got its pros and cons, of course it does, right? But I will argue I've got probably one of the most creative brains out there. The only downside is procrastination can be very, very, very high, but that's why we learn how to manage it. And it's still an ongoing battle. I'm not going to sit here and say that we've figured this out, guys, right? But tackling my OCD head on has really taught me a lot about myself and has been a driving factor to where I am now. But it's still an ongoing battle. And it's hard, but the biggest thing, or the biggest help I've had so far with it, is acceptance. Accepting this is me, this is how I think. It's not going to be a detriment, it's going to separate us from the rest. And that is where you need to look at something that you see as a weakness. How can you turn it into a strength? So again, this will take us on to my next point, where we left the small group PT coaching role, became a fully online coach, fully self-employed, built the extra mile from the ground up and to where it is today. But before that, before we get into what the extra mile is and everything else like that, there was a quote that I took away from a long time ago that really, really stuck with me. And I want you guys to take this away as well, because I've had a lot of doubt, a lot of double guessing myself, a lot of questions, and yeah, a lot of setbacks. The quote is, you're only 2 days away from the best you've ever felt. Now sit with that, and people go, what are you talking about? How can you be in the best state ever in 2 days? It's not physically, it's mentally. You can change your energy, change your state rapidly, especially across 2 days. 48 hours that is. So think about it. If you found yourself into a position where you feel pretty low, pretty stuck, you will go back into negative vices. You'll go to the stuff that's maybe got you in that position before. Why not flip it? Why not have the momentum builders, the energy builders, the stuff that you can lock into when times are tough? I mean, the easy walks, the early morning sessions, the connections with friends, the coffee catch-ups, whatever it may be. That's the stuff that you need to get in place, right? And believe me, if you know what is going to boost you, bring your energy up, bring your excitement up, then you could be the best you've ever felt in 2 days. And you will gain a lot more control. Now, if you're anything like me who does overthink, does stress, this quote has been a massive game changer for myself. Now, again, diving into the extra mile and how it came about. But I think we need to obviously talk about how the extra mile means a lot to me personally and how it's been a driving factor to where I am. Now, again, we've discussed obviously the past where cocaine was prominent. I was depressed, I was anxious, done a lot of poor and bad decisions. But then again, you've got the flip side of it, of where I am right now. I've built a business and a team around me. We've helped numerous people transform their life, their physique and their mindset. Over 100 people we've been able to do that with. And I'm not talking lose a few pounds. Like, drop over 100 pounds. Run a sub 130 half marathon. Pushing high rocks times, training for Ironmans. Completely flipping their trajectory of life. We've been doing that to the masses. And it's been incredible to see. But again, this is where my passion comes in from this, man, and the stuff that I've been able to achieve with this flipper mindset. For instance, last year I ran the length of Scotland in 10 days, 539 kilometres, averaging 54 kilometres a day. Wild when you really, really think about it, man. And it was just me and my partner George that had done it. Like, there was no team, there was no physios, there was no like big production. We got a camper van, George drove it, I ran it. Simple as that. And then as well, again, we've built a business, ran numerous marathons, I've travelled the world, worked as a digital nomad, we've built a team, and above all, man, I've made a family that is actually proud of where I am compared to where I was. And this can all be achieved, guys, through hard work, dedication, and fundamentally putting the miles into your life. Now, a lot of people think that they're not in control. I was one of the people. I thought I was way out of control. But the reality is I was just lost, distracted, and not excited in the slightest. Now, you can change that because at the end of the day, it is your life. And one thing that I want you to always think about, right? You can't rebuild your life with the same tools you destroyed it with. And this is where a lot of people go wrong and they don't actually tackle the real pressing issues. Your self-sabotaging behaviours, the ones that you are embarrassed to show anyone that you do, and the ones that you turn a blind eye to every single day. This is the stuff that you need to tackle head on. And this is the stuff that I do daily to make sure that I am building my life up from the ground up. And I'll always remember where I came from. But at the same token, I always have a vision of where I can actually be. And this comes down from tweaking, trying new things, being honest with myself, taking ownership. And not a lot of people will genuinely do that. And that's a big, big issue. And that is why our focus, again, is bridging that gap for people and their toxic traits, that self-sabotaging behaviour. That's why we want to bridge the gap with it. Like, you don't want to just give someone a training plan, a nutrition plan. Like, yeah, sound, we'll give you all that kind of stuff, right? But if you're someone who has like locked in 10 times in 1 year and not made any progress, then it's not a training plan. It's you, fundamentally. It's your behaviours, it's your habits, and it's your self-sabotaging behaviours, in fact, that are causing a lot of issue. So I want you to kind of just sit and digest that, right? What is it that you wouldn't want me to see, or you wouldn't want your family to see? Like, what's the stuff that you hide? Doesn't even need to be big. Do you know what I mean? Like, are you snoozing your alarm? Like, what is it? What's that thing that you know is holding you back massively? The quicker you can be honest with that, the more chance you've got of breaking through it and starting to build your life up through the miles that you will put in. Now, one of the biggest lessons that I've got from being a coach and helping numerous people transform their full life, man, is get people to understand that they can control the controllables, and the controllables are a lot more than what they think. A lot of people think there's a lot of external factors, which there is, like stress in work, stress in relationships, friendships, family, whatever it may be, right? Injuries, the list can go on, right? But there's a lot more stuff that you can control. And the sooner you start to realise that, the better it's actually going to be for your overall growth as an individual, right? But again, there's so many people that like to blame the external factors. And this is something that I've done for so many years. I was like, it's this fault, it's that fault, or that happened to me when I was a kid. That's why I'm doing this. That's why it's not went to plan. But in reality, that was all just bullshit. It was all just these stories that I was telling myself. And if you can start to look at everything that's going on in your life and actually grab it by the balls and take ownership with it, you'll soon start to realise that, yeah, like building your life from the ground up, it's possible. It really, really is possible. And I am living proof of that. Because again, all you need to do is go back to some of our later stories or scroll all the way down on our Instagram and you'll see exactly where I was 5 years ago. Never mind 10 years ago. But again, where I was 10 years ago, it's not even the same person, but it's all came from ownership. So again, the extra mile and why we want to bridge the gap between people's self-sabotaging behaviours and their ambition. Because one thing that I've noticed is, right, a lot of people talk the talk, but see when it actually comes to doing the do, it doesn't happen as easily as what they think. And then the toys come out the pram, but it's because they've not really addressed like the real pressing issues. And that's why we really, really want to help people tackle that self-sabotaging behaviour. And again, if you're not willing to attack that, if you are only willing to look at your nutrition, your training, maybe look at your lifestyle a wee bit, you're not going to get to where you want to be, and you're not going to be able to, again, grow as an individual. And one thing that you always look at is like, if you really want to rebuild your life, man, or even just enhance it, because a lot of people are just in a good position and maybe want to go to great. But if you really want to like go to that next level, find that next phase for yourself, man. Like doing the same shit over and over again is only going to derail you and unmotivate you, and then leave you in a position where you've just nothing's changed in 6 months. But I'm doing my training, I'm tracking my nutrition. It's like me and you can go into a room together, train the same, track our nutrition the same, but I can guarantee you, man, our results will be different because it always comes down to our behaviours behind the scene. The stuff that nobody really wants to address. And that is the backbone to put in the miles to creating the life you've always wanted. So what I want you to do is reflect on the efforts that you actually put in daily. Everyone talks about standards and behaviours, but in reality, what is standards? Right? Standards are basically the minimum efforts you are willing to put in every single day. And you will probably have a big ambitious goal, but are we actually like acting like that person that wants to achieve that ambitious goal? And I want you to think about it like every action is every mile, okay? Physically, mentally, and emotional. Are they in line with who you truly want to be? And are they in line with the goal that you're trying to achieve? And there's two options here. No, sound pull your socks up and change it. And dial in on the behaviours, dial in on the routines and habits. Or two, it doesn't actually matter that much to you, which is fine. But you need to get crystal clear on what actually does matter to you. Now, what I want us to look into here before we finish off the podcast is I want you to really, really, really sit down and think about your day-to-day actions, your behaviours and your habits, and then think about what is the goal that you want to achieve? Like, what is the target? And ask yourself honestly, are you acting in line with this? Because so many people go through life living in delusion, pretending that they're acting in a certain way, but in reality, they're only implementing to 70%, if they're lucky, that is. So many people will coast through life and wonder why they don't actually get the goals that they want to hit, and it always comes down to their attitude towards their behaviours. If they are not changed, if they are not tweaked, if they are not growing with the person, you will always regress and you will always go back the way. So before we round off this first episode, I know we've spoke a lot about where I came from and where the extra mile came from and how I've built my life up from the ground up, but I want you to start doing the same. I want you to start thinking about this. Instead of just being that guy or that woman that says the goal and then does fuck all about it, I want you to really sit there and go, right, what needs to change? What behaviours need to be tweaked? What needs to happen? And over the next 2 days, what's the wee small percents? The wee 1% that you can change. It's like the analogy where you're putting 2p's into a machine. And over time, you're going to get a lot of 2p's back. That's like your results. So you're constantly putting 2p's in this machine. You maybe put 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, man, and nothing happens. But then eventually, you're going to get a cash out. The cash out is your results. So I want you to think about this over the next 2 days. Like, what 2p's are you putting in a machine, right? And then answer this question to yourself internally, right? In the next 2 days, if you put more 2p's in that machine, you show up for yourself just that wee bit better. You tweak your behaviours, so you start acting in line with the person that wants that goal. How do you feel? Is your energy up? Is your excitement up? Is your productivity up? Do you actually feel really, really good? And then as well, what I want you to really think about, is this something you can sustain? A lot of people run before they can walk. Ask yourself over the next 2 days, the stuff that you've done, can you sustain it? And I guarantee you, right, there'll be a lot easier to go, I can. If that's the case, then fucking stick with it. Because there's too many people that go through life that don't actually commit properly to anything. They crave too much balance, but we don't need balance. For true change, we need an obsession. And that's what I've done for the past 10 years. And that is why I'm standing here, delivering this podcast, about to go travelling again and live as a digital nomad, running a very, very successful coaching business that really changes lives. And I mean really changes lives, not just gets people in a good condition, changes their trajectory of life. And it's something that I'm very, very proud of. And I want you guys to listen to this podcast and start to shape your own dream life. Like, again, guys, I can't express this origin story wasn't here for me to go, oh, like, look at me, look what I've done as such. It's to show you that you can come from a pit that you really don't think you can get out of to your ideal but dream life. And it is possible. And over every single episode, guys, you're going to see it from guests that other people are doing it too. People that you might look up to on social media. People that you might not even know that you find a common interest in. But the whole goal here isn't to blow smoke up people's arse. It's to show you what's actually possible when you decide that you are actually going to put the miles both physically and mentally into your life. And as I say, guys, every single podcast, you're going to find lessons, takeaways, insights, and really have a clear idea on how you can make your own life look great in the way you exactly want it to be, man. So again, guys, I don't want to rabble on too much around and about it, about my origin story, because anyone that's followed us will know this already. They will know a lot of it, man. But again, we'll be sitting here showing you living proof that anything is possible, and we'll be delivering episodes every single week. So if you can, do me a wee favour, man, and share this to your stories if you haven't already. Like and subscribe, give us a wee follow on Spotify, guys, and just make some noise around about this podcast, because it's not going to be like, oh, this is how you track your calories, this is how you do this. Like, it's not going to be your usual fitness podcast, guys. It's going to be something that's going to be really helping people change the way that they see the outcome of their life and how they can have a trajectory that excites them, gives them energy, but above all, fulfills them with purpose. So guys, my name's Kieran Ingram, and this was the first episode of the Made by Miles podcast, and we will catch you again next week.